Welcome to the Weekend Spectator with Paul and Grace. It's Grace Reilly here with Paul Kengor, and we're going to be hitting a lot of different topics on this episode, from the Trump rally in Butler that Paul Kengor was at on the outside. He'll share a first person experience from that, to Pennsylvania, polling, swing states, what it's looking like for the election, to Bob Casey Jr., to Canada's leading cause of death, which is quite surprising and extreme. You'll find out about all of it on this episode, so keep watching. Paul Kengor, what do you think? We'll start with the Butler rally. It was a crazy one, made the biggest he's had, people are saying, maybe the most significant following the assassination attempt. You were there on the ground though.
Yes, the great and gracious Grace. Good to be with you again. Before we say that, I've got to tell people watching this, it will be after the fact, hopefully, but tell everybody where you are.
Oh yeah,
Where
yeah, a
we're
little.
recording this from.
I'm a little.
Ground zero for Grace.
Yeah,
I'm
ground
still
zero
calling
for.
you Ground Zero Grace.
Yeah, yeah, gracious grace or ground zero grace, which one's cooler, right? But yeah, I'm a little distracted today because I'm here in Florida. Hurricane Helene is, excuse me, not Hurricane Helene. This is how distracted I am, everyone. Hurricane Milton is hitting. It's about to make landfall in a few hours, so I'm here in Florida. I'm safe, but have family more in the path, so it's pretty crazy down here. There are tornadoes, flooding, all sorts of things. So I'm in a pretty safe place, staying
You're
safe,
right next to a window, I see.
except for the window. Everyone ignore the window. I promise they'll
Well,
move
the
away
window's
from
handy right now, right? You
it.
could be like,
Yeah, I can.
gotta
This way I
go.
can see the tornado coming, right?
Right, right, right.
Right. No, if the building starts shaking, I'll get away from the window, I promise.
Yes. Say time to cut the podcast short.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but
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 nothing
no, good,
too,
good.
yeah,
And
nothing
by the way,
too
I talked to her folks
bad, but
before this for quite a while. The gracious Grace is not nervous. It's amazing. I would be probably a wreck right now,
I'm
but
trying to
she's
become a real Floridian, you know?
yeah, yeah. You're a transplant from the Northeast, so this kind of stuff doesn't happen in Connecticut very often, right? You're Connecticut, right?
Yep, from Connecticut. So this is new to me. I mean, this storm, especially with how big it is and how catastrophic and significant it is, it's kind of crazy. But luckily I'm on the kind of outskirts of it. It was supposed to hit me more initially. I'm near Jacksonville, St. Augustine area, so we're under the warning for it and we're supposed to get the hurricane, but it's obviously more on the edge of it, whereas I have family that's going to get hit maybe by the eye of it, which is
Oof.
really bad. So, and they're all on the East Coast, so it is better than the West Coast. But even just having friends on the West Coast, family on the West Coast who have had to evacuate, it's just really horrible and awful to watch happen. And it's just so sad for the state as a whole. So, definitely, well, I guess it's over now, so you don't have to be praying, but be praying for the recovery
Yeah.
of everyone after, since you'll be watching this after the fact, and just for all the people who have been impacted by it.
We had a tornado come through Grove City just last week, and it actually went right above I-80 in Western PA,
Really?
and the whole campus was under a tornado watch. And we have a big window in our back of our house. We have a log home, and it's a big giant window. And my son John and I and my wife were just watching the trees. I was like, and I just went and got my prayer book quite quite literally. I said, well, I don't know what to do right now, but pray, right? I'm just praying that one of those things doesn't come through the window. And a tree in the backyard broke in half and landed in the garden, and not too far from the window, but we were okay. I don't think anybody died from this. Nothing compared to what's going to happen in Florida.
No.
But yeah, but it's a scary thing to be in something like that.
Yeah, and especially the tornadoes. There, we'll put some videos up on the screen, but they are monster tornadoes going through
Right.
southern Florida right now. It's astounding and crazy. And this is all before landfall. So at this point, the hurricane hasn't even made landfall. It's not even here yet. This is all the pre-storm stuff, that there's flooding near me right now, and there are tornadoes just all over the place, sprouting everywhere in the
Hmm.
South. So that's crazy. And I don't know how prepared people were for that, actually. I know they're preparing more for the hurricane, but to have so many tornadoes ahead of time, some of these towns have already been destroyed by the tornadoes before the hurricane even gets there. There are videos of Fort Myers, for example, just wrecked by tornadoes
It's on
already.
the west.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not the storm's not even officially here yet, and again, now
Mm.
you'll be able to see more of the damage, but it's just really, really not good.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. It's terrible. So, well, to pick up with your question, so we had a tornado come through here metaphorically last weekend, right? The Trump rally in Butler,
Yeah.
PA. And we talked about this before. So Butler, Pennsylvania is actually my hometown. So I graduated from Butler High School, class of 1984. And I didn't go to the first rally on July 13th. Now, Trump had come here 4 years earlier and had like 55,000 people. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
So he vowed to
that's the
come.
one I was at, which was
Yeah, yeah, you were at that one, right?
it was amazing. It was so much fun. I wish I could have gone to this one, but in
I mean,
Florida,
Amish people there, Western PA, it was just
really fun.
yeah, unbelievable. So for this one, well, for the first one, July 13th, 2024, where he was shot, I was going to go. I told this story before, and I was going to cover it for Spectator. And I talked to Jeff Lord, Melissa McKenzie, Volodya Plazinski, and Jeff said, it's going to be really hot there. Newsmax is covering the whole thing. Why don't you just watch it on Newsmax? And my wife and I really hesitated about letting my son go, my son John. But John had a friend of a friend who worked for the Trump campaign. He thought it'd be cool to go to something like this to see a president. And man, when we were watching it live on Newsmax and to see those bullets go off, it was just shocking. Talk about praying. I mean, my wife just dropped to her knees, started praying. Because you worry about your kid at that point. Someone's going to get hit by those bullets, if not the president. Corey Compratori was killed. 2 or 3 other people were hit. And Trump honored all of them in his return then last weekend. And one of the people that I was with said he's going to start off by saying, as I was saying, right? And that's what he did.
As I was saying,
But I was at the fitness center at the YMCA last Saturday morning. I saw my friend John, who I grew up with in Butler. Grove City is about a 25-minute drive from Butler. And I said, "Hey, John, Trump's going to be back in our hometown again, right?" He's a former state trooper. John is. I said, Are you going to go to the event?" And he said, I just want to go and be in the back of it and get a view of the crowd. And my brother has this hangar over here, and I said, well, that's cool. I'd like to do that too. I don't want to go in the rally. I've got stuff to do. I've got family stuff. I don't want to be stuck at that rally till 11 o'clock at night. I hate rallies anyway, right? And I said, John, how are you going to get there? And he said, we're both from Center Township outside of Butler. He said, well, take Benbrook Road and take it to Christ Road and take it to Brown. Huh? I know all this stuff, right? So I said, yeah, I can do that. All right, cool. That's the back way. So my son John and I and 2 of his friends, about 3 o'clock, he took his driver's test at the DMV in Mercer, passed, and we just drove down and drove around the outside, and things seemed okay. They said, "All right, let's park and just kind of. We're not going to go in. You need a ticket to go in. You have to go through the metal detectors. Let's just go check out the scene." And it was wild. It was real. I mean, it was really wild. The people selling T-shirts, the vendors. By the way, I got to say this. I hate using identity politics. A lot of Black conservatives were there. I mean, it was just so noticeable, right? Because noticeable because the one guy was like said, "I'm a Black man, and I want to tell you why to vote for Trump." Right? So race was part of it, right? Race. I talked to that guy for a long time.
I think the reason that's significant, though, is same thing with women, how the left says that these, groups of people don't support Trump, or the
Right.
left tries to say that Trump is either racist or sexist. But that's not how Americans feel, and it's not true, actually, first of all. So it's
Packed with women,
not
women
true.
everywhere.
Oh yeah, not true at all. That he's
I
the
saw more women than men, no question.
Yeah, and I've been to them too, and it's a mix of people from all walks of life, all backgrounds.
Asians, Latinos, even in Butler, PA. Butler, PA is not a very ethnically diverse place. I mean, I grew up there. It's largely white, working class. So, I mean, frankly, there's probably more minorities that I saw at that Trump rally than any other time that I've ever seen in my life in Butler, PA.
Yeah.
they were selling T-shirts, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it does make me think too of that time during the Harris and Trump debate where Kamala said, go to a Trump rally. And she, of course, said that to bait Trump. But what you're talking about kind of explains it that if you do go to a Trump rally, you'll see that there's a lot of happy people there from all walks of life, which goes
All
against
happy.
the lies that the left tells you about Trump supporters and about his movement in general. So going to a Trump rally, it does show you that there are happy people. It's a much more energetic and positive and uplifting vibe than the Harris rallies, and multiple people have said that. And the DNC versus the RNC was the same way. And to note that going to a Trump rally at all exposes all the left's lies.
And the theme for this rally. So I got my picture taken in front of this because I just wanted to send it to my kids to make them laugh. There is a Trump statue that somebody made, and it said "tough as nails," and it looked almost like bronze. And it was a statue of Donald Trump made out of nails. I don't know who made
Wow.
this. This wasn't cheap. I mean, some metal shop must have forged this, and it was fascinating. I should probably give you the picture to put it up, but I don't want it on the internet. But but it was a fascinating thing to see. And the other theme was posters, banners, T-shirts saying stuff like "Remember July 13th, 2024, Butler."
The f-
Fight, fight, fight. So the whole theme was like Trump the fighter, tough as nails, come back. That was the whole theme of this. And Grace, I think he should have given this talk in Butler like the weekend before the final vote, like the Sunday before November. I don't know why he decided to do it now, but the people that were there, JD Vance, Laura Trump, Eric Trump, Elon Musk. I mean, there has never in the history of my hometown been a
and
collection of people like that.
Elon Musk was a highlight for sure. Running onto the stage, jumping for in excitement, and he said too that he feels that if Trump doesn't win this election, that it could be the last, in the sense that the left is after our First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, and what he said was the right to vote effectively, meaning all of the stuff that goes on with all sorts of voter fraud and stuff like that, and flooding swing states with illegal aliens and encouraging them to vote and opposing voter ID, all sorts of stuff like that.
I think it's the most important election of our lifetime. This is no ordinary election. The other side wants to take away your freedom of speech. They want to take away your right to bear arms. They want to take away your right to vote effectively. You've got 14 states now that don't require voter ID. California, where I used to live, is just passed a law banning voter ID for voting. I still can't.
And to your point, it's true because this rally in Pennsylvania boosted the polls in Trump's favor tremendously right
They
after.
did.
I've seen a lot of different numbers. I'll read a few for you now. But right after the rally, Trump jumped to a 14-point lead in the Polymarket betting odds. Now, it's with polling, it's tricky because now there are numbers saying that Harris has lost some traction but is still leading. But there were a good amount of polls that came out showing that Trump shot ahead in Pennsylvania following that rally. And
Yeah, in
it
fact,
makes sense.
the Real Clear Politics betting odds, I think on Friday I had checked, he was leading her or trailing her by 0.1. It was 48.4 to 48.3. When I checked this morning, I think it was like 52-47, 51-47. He's way up now on
Yeah.
that. Yeah, this rally clearly seemed to make a difference.
Well, and on top of that, just to go into some of the Republican efforts to get out the vote, there's reports saying that Republicans doubled in voter registrations this year compared to Democrats. Now, Democrats
Right.
were always registered to vote more, so they're still trailing behind a little. But the change from September, Republicans registered 60,000 new people, whereas the Democratic change was only 35,000 more new people.
Is that nationwide?
That's Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Yeah,
So
yeah.
in
No, that's right.
Pennsylvania,
And I'm looking at Real Clear Politics right now. So in the top battlegrounds, there's a Republican advantage in 2024 now of 0.3%.
It's
In
huge.
2020, it was Democrats plus 4.3.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's actually now suddenly in the Republicans' flat out favor
Yeah,
on
and they're saying too in the poly market betting odds that nationwide for the presidential forecast, Trump took a commanding 7-point lead also after the Butler rally. Or no, actually, this wasn't after the Butler rally. This was after her recent media disaster interviews. So if you've seen over the past few days, she's
60
fumbled
Minutes.
uh, Kamala Harris, she's fumbled multiple interviews.
Right.
Most notably, she was asked if she'd do anything differently from Biden, to which she said no. And there's a pretty funny video. It's not funny at all, but circulating around, it was a great point that shows kind of like the family feud options at the bottom, or the trivia options at the bottom, of would you change anything from what Biden had done? The options are economy, border, foreign policy, no. And of course, she said no. There's nothing that she would have done differently. And people have said that's what canned her campaign in a way. And I think that's true. I think people will still vote for her. It's not going to have as big of an effect as it should. But that says it all, right? She wouldn't do anything differently than Biden. And we've all been saying that the whole time because it's true. But now she's finally admitting it, and she doubled down on it. She not only said that in an interview with The View, but she also said it on the late night talk show that she went on hours later. So she
Stephen
twice
Colbert.
a day, yes, twice in one day, doubled down that she wouldn't have done anything differently than Biden, that she sees no issue in the way that her and Biden have been running the country, that she's proud of her record. And I don't think Americans agree with that. I don't think people think that they're better off now than they were before in a lot of different ways, whether that be financially, whether that be whether the world's safe or not. That people are not better off. People have felt our country weakening under their leadership. So it really was a bad move for her to say that everything's great, everything's fine. I wouldn't do anything differently.
I'll tell
But
you what she shouldn't do differently. She had to go campaign from her basement like Joe Biden did. That'd probably be a better strategy for her, right?
gonna be,
Uh,
but she got bullied into doing all these interviews and it's gone horribly for her. So
Also, I'm not totally up to date on this, and I should be, especially being here in Pennsylvania, but I haven't seen her in Pennsylvania lately. She was here, yeah, she was here maybe a week or two ago. I'm starting to wonder already if, given the direction of the polling in Pennsylvania, and he's now leading her in the latest poll in Pennsylvania, I wouldn't be surprised if her campaign's not far off from giving up on PA. Now, they really can't give up on it, and they shouldn't give up on it. But if he's within 1 point of her in Pennsylvania in the polls, or 2 points, he'll win Pennsylvania.
yeah,
So if he's leading her by 1 or 2, she might as well start going to Michigan or Wisconsin or something. And I bet they're starting to feel that. And the Sunday night, I was up very late at night watching the Steeler game because it was delayed for an hour because of the really bad storm that came through Sunday night. Elon Musk went straight from Butler, evidently stayed in Pittsburgh. That makes sense. Spent the day in Pittsburgh and was seen at the Steeler game waving a terrible towel like a fanatic from from one of the boxes. It was sky boxes,
oh
and
yeah.
and
Video
NBC
was taken by my friend Alex, who is also he's friends with Elon. He's huge on X, loves X. Elon loves him. So I believe he took that video of
did
swinging
he?
the flag around. Yeah.
Well, and so that was and the NBC Sunday Night Football didn't even show Musk, which is a clear sign of bias because it probably would have had to have acknowledged that he was maybe in town for the Trump rally. They didn't even show him. Maybe they didn't show him because he endorsed Trump. You watch a Kansas City Chiefs game and they show Taylor Swift every 5 minutes, right? But Musk, this is very interesting, and this talks about shows what a good politician Pennsylvania's Democratic governor, Josh Shapiro, is. And another reason why Kamala should have picked him, right? He calls Elon Musk, I think, on Monday, and had a nice conversation with him about Musk investing in Pittsburgh, right? And so there you have a kind of classic Josh Shapiro reaching across the aisle, bipartisan. He doesn't care if Trump brought in Elon Musk. How could they work to improve the state of Pennsylvania? Instead, Kamala picks someone like Tim Walz, who can be, kind of an ideological hatchet person, just like her. But it was fascinating to have. I don't know if it was the first time ever Elon Musk has been in Western PA. It might be.
Actually, he
It's
did
the
go
first
to
time
Penn
he's in
State.
Butler, I'll tell you that.
He did go to Penn State for 3 years, I think he
He
said.
did?
Yes, I just found this out because it was on X actually. I'll put it up on the screen, a picture of him in college. He apparently lived in Pennsylvania for 3 years. That's obviously not Western Pennsylvania, but
Right.
he
But it's
had,
not far from us.
and
Yeah.
he's really taken it personally to get involved in the Pennsylvania race. He put out this new petition to basically support the Constitution, and he's put it out and said that any voter in Pennsylvania or in swing states can get $47 if they get someone to sign this petition. So he's put this petition out basically urging voters in Pennsylvania to be registered, to be voting, to get involved. He's made this kind of his whole platform recently,
Wow.
actually.
Liberals have to be foaming at the mouth.
Oh, yeah,
He
he
took their
making it
Twitter
back.
from them that they wanted to use to censor and cancel people. And
Yep,
now he's doing this. By the way, his
full
Penn
speed
State
ahead.
his Penn State Nittany Lions and my Pitt Panthers are both 5-0. It's been a long time before probably not that long actually, since both teams are 5-0. But that's interesting. I did not know that he spent 3 years at Penn State.
Yeah, and
Probably
now
drank himself off campus.
maybe, yeah.
I
It
have no
could be,
idea if that's true
hey,
or not.
but not enough that it hindered his success, obviously.
Right.
But
Exactly.
his
Exactly.
profile picture now on X is him in a dark
And for
mask.
the record, I would have drank with him at camp.
Yeah,
In fact, maybe I
Elon
did, for
Musk.
all I know. We're
Who
probably about
knows?
the same age, right? I probably did party with him at Penn State at one point.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, I'm sure that he had a great time there. That's for sure. He's a funny guy.
He is.
His sense of humor is funny. Sometimes his jokes don't hit right and he gets in trouble, but I think he's a very funny guy. I love seeing the stuff he posts. It's always so random. But yeah, now he's got a MAGA hat on in his profile. He's been posting out the voter registration deadlines every day for the past week,
Hmm.
letting people know like this is your last day to register in Florida and Georgia, wherever else. He's been focused on swing states, so he's really gone full speed ahead for this election, put everything into it. Again, made a new PAC, America PAC, where now he's basically just posting American values and trying to unite people around those in the Constitution against the radical left. So he's really picked up the torch and ran right forward. So Elon
Yeah,
Musk,
and in fact, one more thing about that in the Trump Butler rally, it was very positive. Now, Trump is usually an attack dog, right? Going after his opponents. So I didn't hear his speech, and so I should note I was there at the perimeter for about a half an hour. My wife didn't want me going in there. I didn't want to go in there. I didn't want to take my son and his friend. I just wanted to see what was going on. I wanted to see how big the crowd was. By the way, the crowd was gigantic. No one knows the exact numbers. It had to have been at least 70,000, right? But so I got there, I double parked behind
yeah.
somebody, and they got out of there before I got stuck. In fact, on their way out, taking our back road out, we got stuck behind a few cars, and Trump's motorcade went right past us. And my son got video of it. But I heard Trump's speech on the radio later that evening, and it was very positive. And
Yeah.
he ended with, and this connects well to you and I and RFK Jr. at the Spectator Gala just a few weeks ago. Trump finished by saying, "We're going to make America great again. Woo, we're going to make America safe again. Woo, we're going to make America healthy again." The Maha, the phrase of RFK Jr. And he had like 12 of these things. And Elon is going to take us to Mars in the next 4 years if I win. So it was really, I, Trump maybe finally learned, be positive here, right? You don't have to attack Sleepy Joe and Kamala. Fire people up with your positive message. And Elon was clearly fired up about it. He's on board.
Yeah, they were all positive the whole time. I watched the whole speech, and part of it was because it was woven with tributes to Corey, his family, the others who were hit during that assassination attempt. So it really, the whole thing was a hopeful, big party of people, essentially. It was all these people who were excited, hyped up. It was definitely positive, hope for the future, hope for winning in November, and also just recognizing Corey. There were multiple times throughout. There was a beautiful painting someone did of him. He had this beautiful singer come and do Ave Maria in the
Yeah,
beginning.
the opera singer who
And
sang Ave Maria.
and then
Wow.
finished with probably at least 4 or 5 songs, 3, 4, 5 songs at the end. So the whole thing was
The
just
opera singer did, or somebody else?
yes, the opera singer. He came back out. Trump, after he did that Make America Safe, Healthy Again, and so on, he had the opera singer come back out. He had told everyone to stay in their seats. And for a while, longer than you would have expected, he sang a few more songs. And it
By the
was
way, Trump even said, he said, I don't want to keep you much longer because it's going to get really cold here. We were at a picnic in Grove City, which is only 20 minutes away from the Butler Farm Show grounds. It was cold. In fact, I got home and then got to the picnic, drove back to my house and got a jacket and so it did get cold. And
yeah.
I didn't know that the opera singer sang that. I saw the footage later of him singing Ave Maria to this crowd of 70,000 kind of blue collar, middle class Butlerites with MAGA hats, singing it in Latin, right? Gratia plena, and I thought, wow, look at this! What a
Yeah.
spectacle! But it was beautifully done.
Yeah, no, it really was, and I just can't imagine Kamala Harris there. I can't even imagine it. Even with just the people of Butler and of
Yeah,
Western,
no way.
you can't imagine that at all. But
She's not their personality. She
what
is
accent
she's
she gonna do,
classic.
right? Which accent would she pull out in that scenario?
Right,
No
right.
one knows.
Yeah, I grew up with those folks, and isn't it interesting that, and I can tell you this in Pennsylvania, she's running nonstop ads about Trump giving tax breaks to billionaires, right? You're wasting your time. The people here don't buy that. They know that the billionaires, other than maybe Elon Musk, right? I mean, those people are libs. They're voting for Kamala. Trump is a working class hero to them, which I got to tell you is indeed the strangest thing that a billionaire guy from Manhattan, but Trump connects with them like he does with the construction workers and hard hat people who built his buildings,
Yeah.
right? So he's at ease with those people more than he would be, in the faculty lounge at Harvard.
Yeah, and those people know that they had more money in their pockets when he was president, so they can see through the lies that Kamala Harris is telling. And to switch subjects quickly, we want to get to the piece that you just wrote for the American Spectator. Bob Casey Jr., you've covered this race kind of extensively. You'd written a piece before. Give the audience just a summary of that and why they should check out the piece at spectator.org.
I think he's the worst senator. I really do. He ran on
From the worst Catholic senator to just the worst senator, period.
Exactly. Yeah, I wrote a piece 4 years ago calling him America's worst Catholic senator. He got elected on the strength and name and legacy of his father, Bob Casey Sr. All right. Bob Casey Sr. was governor of Pennsylvania. He was the last great pro-life Democrat. The court case, Planned Parenthood v. Casey, is named for Bob Casey Jr. or Sr. And so he wanted to speak at the 1992 Democratic Convention. Bill and Hillary rejected him. That same year, he's diagnosed with a rare disease. He ends up surviving that, getting a liver heart transplant at University of Pittsburgh Medical Center in 1993. Right after I left, I had worked for the organ transplant team in 1991 for Dr. Thomas Starzl. Starzl transplanted Casey, so I'm very close to all that stuff. Casey ends up writing a memoir called Fighting for Life. This is his whole issue is whatever happened to my party, the party of the little guy. Why won't they defend the unborn baby in the womb? So Casey dies in the year 2000. He's only 68 years old. His son, Bob Casey Jr., is going to pick up the family torch, runs as a pro-life Democrat. Okay. Now he ran against Rick Santorum, Grace, all right, who was the best pro-life member of the Senate. And he crushed Santorum. I've never seen anything like it. An incumbent who lost by over 17 points. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that. I'm like, I thought he was going to lose by maybe 5 or 6, but anything double digit, 10 would have been great. 17, it was unbelievable. And the main way that he did it was you had moderates and pro-life Democrats and even some pro-life Republicans who, for whatever reason, turned a little bit on Santorum, were like, this is Bob Casey Jr. He's pro-life Catholic boy like his dad. We're going to vote for him. So he slowly but steadily becomes pro-choice, rabidly pro-choice. His latest NARAL, National Abortion Rights Action League rating, is a perfect 100%. His Susan B. Anthony list rating is 0%. And then the craziest thing of all, I remember having a conversation around 2020, 21 with some friends here at Grove City. So, if Planned Parenthood v. Casey was overturned, I wonder if Casey Jr. would be disappointed by that. That's how much he's rejected his father's legacy. Well, June 2022, Dobbs decision. Justice Alito, we are now overturning both Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. How does Bob Casey Jr. react? Immediately issues a press release denouncing Dobbs. And it's like, wow, he's just denounced his father's court case. Now, as our Jeff Lord pointed out at American Spectator, he's now running ads against Dave McCormick, the Republican opponent, on abortion for having the same pro-life abortion positions that his dad had, of all things. So it's crazy what's happened to him. And one more thing, he's now, according to the Heritage Foundation scorecard, he is he now has the second to worst liberal ranking in the whole Senate. The only person lower than him is Mark Warner. There's like 0% of Virginia. By the way, that's astonishing in of itself. Casey's like 6%. Bernie Sanders is way to the right of Casey. So he's become this hard leftist. It is so disappointing what he's done.
That's what's like incredible though. How do you get there, especially and get that radical? I mean, it would be one thing if he kind of shifted and leaned that way.
Right.
But on the polar opposite, like just completely radical, is astounding. To be to the right of Bernie Sanders or to the left, excuse me, of Bernie Sanders
By far. Right.
That says it all. I mean,
so
right?
when he ran again in 2012, he was
Kamala Harris, the most liberal senator.
Well, that's right.
Yes. They tried to erase that title from her, but she has been given that title. She's the most leftist liberal senator, and now they're trying to make her more moderate. It's obviously not working though, and every time she opens her mouth, she proves that she's very radically to the left, but crazy.
And his only ability to do that was his father's name. And then, to be fair, okay, 2012, yeah, he's running again. He's not as far left yet. Maybe like a 40% abortion rating. 2018, maybe like 20%. And now 2024, 100%. They Susan B. Anthony list gave him an F, is what they gave him. They would have given his father straight A's. So now he's running against McCormick. McCormick from Western PA, like me, went to West Point, then went to the first Gulf War. Then after all that, went to Princeton for a PhD. By the way, it's a lot like J.D. Vance, right? Goes to the military first and then goes into these like high profile grad schools. 82nd Airborne. And he is the latest poll. Casey's leading McCormick now. I think it's a Trafalgar poll, or maybe another group, only by 2 points. Oh, wow. Only by 2 points. My prediction here is that if Trump wins PA, McCormick's going to win, because that will have shown a turnout among Republicans. Trump coattails maybe a little bit, but one more thing: the Butler rally July 13th, McCormick was there. And a friend of mine was with him and said bullets went right over his head. They both hit the ground. He said McCormick could have easily been killed that day. Could have been another Corey Comparatori. And my friend said to him, he said something like, God's watching out for you, man. And he had tears in his eyes because, he could have easily been killed that day.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's crazy. Very crazy. And we're running out of time. We're probably past time, but to hit the candidate thing quickly, euthanasia has increased exponentially, and it has been in Canada. There have been different policies that have been making it more and more lenient and easy to be able to be euthanized. And I'll just say very quickly, the point is that it completely devalues life. And that's the problem. It completely devalues life. It's not a good place, a good way to be going, not a good direction to be going. And Canada has also expanded the reasons that you can give to qualify, some of which can include mental health things or other things. So it's a very slippery slope that's extremely concerning.
Yeah, and the piece was by Mary Vaught of the Independent Women's Forum for us, and it's called "The Horrific Assisted Suicide Boom in Canada."
Yeah.
And it
Read
now
more
says
about
that, yeah, so this is now the fifth leading cause of death in Canada. It's unbelievable. And this really struck me, Grace, this quote. So Mary Vaught is quoting some Canadian commissioner of health. All right, listen to this quote. Even the head of the commission that monitors assisted suicide in Quebec had to admit that in the province, listen to this quote, we're now no longer dealing with an exceptional treatment, but a treatment that is very frequent, unquote. What strikes me is not only that it's very frequent, but that they're even calling it a treatment. A treatment is what you give somebody who's ailing and you're attempted to make them better. So I'll tell you right now, Commish, all right, if you're calling euthanasia and doctor-assisted suicide a treatment, all right, you're already losing. All right, maybe change the rhetoric on all of this. All right, the
yeah.
government's been promoting it. They've been one single payer. Everything else, the country has become very secular, even anti-religious, and now they're embracing this culture of death, as has Bob Casey Jr., and to the point where people are dying in horrific numbers, increases in Canada by suicide, by choice, doctor-assisted suicide, which
It's
goes completely against the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah, it's awful, and the rhetoric around it, as you said, is concerning. And we were talking before the show about this, but that was one of the first stories that I ever covered at the American Spectator back a year and a half ago. And it was bad then, and it's only been getting worse as people predicted. And it's going to continue to go down this rabbit hole, snowballing down the hill. And that's exactly what's happened with it being the fifth leading cause of death in Canada now. And before we close, I want to address Helene as well because I have a friend that lives in Augusta, Georgia, that was slammed by the hurricane and isn't getting as much news coverage as everything else. And he sent me a message just asking basically about highlighting some of the things that they're going through because in Augusta, Georgia, and in so many other places, they've just been completely pummeled and kind of left without help. And said from being on the ground, especially with all the FEMA controversy and Kamala Harris controversy, where she didn't show up and Biden didn't show up for a week, left people stranded, needing to be rescued, then promised to send them $750 if they applied and qualified. It's a whole mess, complete mess. You've all heard about it.
Biden can't even show up. He's incapable. He's
Oh
just
no,
mentally
you can't. Yeah,
incapable. But they crucified George W. Bush over Katrina. The liberal media just made it sound like it was as if Bush had blown into a bottle, a magic bottle, and created the hurricane the way they blamed him for it.
the
But that
behavior.
said, no, they're not doing a good job with it because they're incapable, frankly.
Sending billions overseas the same time
Yeah.
that they're saying that they'll maybe give you $750 per household, and then finally saying, "Oh, okay, we'll give you 2 million here, maybe 1 million for this road there," while simultaneously they send hundreds of thousands, or was it 70? It was some crazy number over to Lebanon. So, point being, the contrast was insane.
And by the way, this has to do with the people in charge of foreign aid can do that because they're already in charge of it. But something like Helene and these hurricanes, that would be like a Biden thing. And he's not there, folks. I mean, the chair is empty.
Yeah, it is.
He's mentally not there. And so it might fall to Kamala to do it, but she's campaigning. So this is a real crisis in the presidency. And don't think that our foreign adversaries aren't noticing this.
Oh, I know. And so what my friend Kevin said, he sent me a message and he pointed out that here are some organizations that have done more than the federal government has in this crisis: citizens, churches, nonprofits, Southern Company, which is Georgia Power, and many more. And on top of that, there have been problems where FEMA's trying to stop citizens from helping, and it's just crazy. But it is too crazy how a lot of these towns aren't even getting media coverage, and they're still suffering. People are still without power, water, food. It's a complete crisis, and obviously now with Milton hitting, Kamala Harris spent the eve of Milton hitting they're one of the largest hurricanes uh, to hit Florida. I mean, historic hurricane. Kamala's on the late night show. She's on The
Right.
View. She's prancing around, having a beer
And
with.
imagine if that was Trump or like George W. Bush, the way the media would go after them. It would be unrelenting, every front page. By the way, Trump's home is in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. I mean, yeah, you're not going to get any sympathy from the media on that.
Trump, Trump, by the way, put up about 300 linemen for free in his Doral, Miami hotel. So that's another thing. He's putting up
Wow, I
linemen,
know that.
really incredible and amazing, for free in his hotels ahead of this storm.
Hmm.
So he's doing
Yeah.
what he can clearly, but yeah, really crazy stuff. So we hit a lot of different points, kind of jumped around, but we hoped that you enjoyed this episode and that you'll share it with your friends. Check out the articles that we mentioned at spectator.org and make sure that you like and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest. We'll see you next week.
Grazie, Grace. Stay safe and goodbye, everybody. Pray for Grace's safety down there and everybody in the country. Amen.